as I stood on the driveway of 124 Willow Lane, my dream home finally a reality after 6 years of relentless saving and sacrifice. The house was stunning, a sprawling colonial with tall windows, hardwood floors, and an expansive backyard that whispered possibilities for summer barbecues and lazy Sundays. For someone who had spent most of her life renting cramped apartments or sharing rooms with siblings, this felt like victory personified. But victory has a way of attracting vultures. As I carried boxes inside, my mother breezed past me, already dictating how things would go. "Sophia gets the master bedroom," she declared without hesitation, waving her hand dismissively. "She needs it more. You can take the basement, Emma. You're barely home anyway with your work schedule." I froze mid-step, staring at her. The words hit me like a slap across the face. Sure, Sophia was my sister, and yes, she was perpetually unemployed, but this wasn't just any house. This was my house. Every penny of its $875,000 price tag came from my hard-earned savings. Countless nights working overtime shifts at the hospital, skipped vacations, delayed gratifications, all of it culminating in this moment. And now, my own mother was giving away the best room in the house like it belonged to someone else. "I paid for this house," I said slowly, my voice steady despite the rising frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Shouldn't I get to decide where everyone sleeps?" Mom turned to look at me, her expression one of mild annoyance, as though I'd interrupted some grand plan. "Oh, Emma, don't be difficult. We're family. Besides, sometimes people need to learn lessons the hard way." Her tone was so casual, so condescending, that it took every ounce of self-control not to snap right then and there. Instead, I forced myself to smile tightly and nod. "Sure, Mom. Whatever you say." But deep down, I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. By the end of the first week, it became painfully clear that my family saw this house less as a shared living space and more as their personal playground. Sophia wasted no time claiming the master bedroom, filling it with boxes upon boxes of unsold merchandise from her latest failed ventures, yoga mats emblazoned with her logo, half-finished jewelry projects, and stacks of self-help books she never quite managed to complete. Meanwhile, Dad commandeered the study, turning it into his private sanctuary filled with newspapers, cigars, and dusty knickknacks he insisted were collector's items. Even Mom got involved, ordering takeout nightly using my car and conveniently charging it all to my credit card. It was surreal and infuriating. Here I was, the sole owner of this beautiful property, reduced to playing hostess while they acted like royalty. Every corner of the house seemed to reflect their presence rather than mine. Neon signs reading "Boss Babe" adorned the walls of what was once supposed to be a cozy guest room. Wine glasses, left unwashed, cluttered the kitchen counters. And let's not forget the parade of strangers constantly coming in and out, friends of Sophia's, photographers for her brand, even random acquaintances who wanted to use the house as a backdrop for Instagram photo shoots. One evening, as I sat in the basement-turned-bedroom scrolling through financial statements on my laptop, I heard laughter echoing upstairs. Curious, I climbed the stairs to find the dining table laden with food from yet another expensive dinner delivery service. Sophia lounged at the head of the table, sipping wine and showing off her latest social media post to Mom and Dad. "Isn't this exciting?" Mom clapped her hands together, beaming. "Think of all the exposure this will bring to the family." Something inside me snapped. 2 weeks. That's all it took for them to completely disregard my boundaries, invade my space, and turn my dream home into a chaotic circus. Enough was enough. "Actually," I interjected, stepping fully into the room, "we need to have a family meeting tonight." Dad glanced up from his newspaper, frowning. "Can it wait? Your sister's very busy planning her next big move." "No," I replied firmly. "It can't." An hour later, we were all seated awkwardly in the living room. Lauren Mitchell, my lawyer and best friend, sat beside me, her briefcase resting neatly on the coffee table. She greeted everyone politely, but kept her demeanor professional, sensing the tension crackling in the air. "What's going on, Emma?" Mom asked, eyeing Lauren suspiciously. "Why is there a lawyer here?" This is Ms. Mitchell, I explained calmly. She's here to discuss the house arrangements. Mom's smile faltered slightly. Lawyers? We don't need lawyers, we're family. Lauren cleared her throat gently before speaking. Actually, Mrs. Reynolds, legal clarity is essential, especially when dealing with shared living spaces. Emma asked me to prepare some documents that all adult residents need to sign. She opened her briefcase and laid out several papers on the table. At the top of each document was a bold title, Occupancy Agreement. This agreement outlines the terms for living in the house, Lauren continued smoothly. It includes financial contributions, maintenance responsibilities, rules about guests, and other stipulations designed to ensure harmony among residents. Silence fell over the room as everyone processed what they were hearing. Then Sophia spoke up, her voice dripping with disbelief. Financial contributions?
Rent? What are you talking about?
This is our family home. No, Sophia. I corrected her, my voice firm. This is my home. I bought it with my money. The money I earned working 80-hour weeks at the hospital. According to the deed, which none of you bothered to read, all adult residents must contribute financially to household expenses if they wish to stay here. Sophia stared at me, her mouth agape. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm serious, I replied, sliding a copy of the agreement toward her. The master bedroom you're occupying costs $2,000 per month, plus utilities. The guest room you've turned into a content creation studio? Another $800. Any damage caused by parties or negligence comes directly out of your pocket, not mine. My father leaned forward, his brow furrowed. Emma, surely this is unnecessary. We're your family. You wouldn't actually charge us rent, would you? Yes, Dad, I would, I said evenly. And according to the agreement, anyone who doesn't comply with these terms within 30 days will be required to vacate the premises. Chaos erupted instantly. Sophia burst into tears, her default strategy whenever things didn't go her way. Mom alternated between pleading, Emma, think of your sister, and guilt-tripping, after everything we've done for you. Dad launched into a lecture about family loyalty and how this was no way to treat loved ones. Through it all, I remained calm. For the first time in my life, I held the upper hand, and I wasn't about to let them manipulate me out of it. You have two choices, I announced, raising my voice above the din. Either sign the agreements and start contributing, or find somewhere else to live. You have until the end of the month to decide. Sophia glared at me, her mascara smudged from crying. Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to pay rent? I shrugged casually. You could always get a job. You know, like most adults do. A job, she shrieked. I'm an influencer. I can't waste my time doing menial labor. Then maybe it's time to rethink your career path, I suggested dryly. Because around here, free rides are officially over. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in passive-aggressive behavior. Sophia retaliated by blasting loud music late at night, leaving dirty dishes piled high in the sink, and deliberately parking her car in front of the garage, so I couldn't pull in. Dad tried rallying extended family members to intervene, flooding my phone with messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins urging me to be compassionate and put family first. Even Grandma called during our weekly video chat to weigh in. They tell me you're charging rent in your own house, Grandma said, arching an eyebrow skeptically. Yes, Grandma, I am. She smiled knowingly. Good. It's about time someone taught that girl the value of money. Your mother spoiled her rotten. While their attempts to guilt-trip me grew increasingly desperate, I stayed firm. Finally, the day arrived when the ultimatum expired. Gathering everyone in the living room once again, I handed out copies of the deed, highlighting the sections Lauren had prepared specifically for this scenario. The house is in my name, I stated plainly. The deed gives me sole authority over occupancy. You were given notice and chose not to comply with the terms. You have 30 days to vacate. But where will we go? Mom demanded, panic creeping into her voice. That sounds like a problem for Sophia's influencer network to solve, I replied coolly. Content houses are very popular these days. For the first time, real fear flickered in Sophia's eyes. The gravity of her situation was finally sinking in. No more free rides, no more endless patience from her big sister, and certainly no more luxury backdrop for her imaginary career. Our father made one last-ditch effort. "Emma, if you do this, you'll regret it. Family is forever." "You're right," I agreed, gathering my keys. Family is forever. But that doesn't mean I have to let family take advantage of me forever. Your time here is up. As I walked out the door, I heard Sophia's tearful voice behind me. "Mom, what am I going to do? All my content was planned around this house." Smiling to myself, I drove away knowing that sometimes the hardest lessons are the most necessary ones. 6 months after the eviction, 124, Willow Lane finally felt like home. The neon signs were gone, replaced by tasteful artwork. The content creation studio had transformed into a peaceful library, and the master bedroom, now mine, offered breathtaking views of the sunrise over Boston. Sophia and my parents moved into a small apartment across town, a transition that proved challenging for all of them. Sophia, for the first time in her life, had to get a real job, landing a position as a receptionist at a local gym. She hated it initially, complaining endlessly about early mornings and rude customers. But gradually, she began to change. Without the safety net of my finances, she learned responsibility and accountability. Her Instagram following dwindled, but instead of lamenting the loss, she started focusing on genuine connections with her audience. For the first time, she was earning her own money, and it showed in her newfound maturity. My parents struggled more significantly. Accustomed to enabling Sophia's lavish lifestyle, they found themselves grappling with the reality of limited resources. Credit cards maxed out, utility bills overdue, and grocery budgets slashed. They were forced to adapt to a simpler way of life. At first, they resisted, blaming me for their hardships. But eventually, necessity bred resourcefulness. Dad picked up woodworking as a hobby, selling custom pieces online. Mom joined a community garden, finding joy in cultivating fresh produce. Slowly but surely, they adjusted to their new normal. Last week, something remarkable happened. I received a letter from Sophia. "Dear Emma, I've been trying to write this for months. I owe you an apology. Actually, I owe you about 1,000 apologies. I never realized how much I was taking advantage of you, both financially and emotionally. Living on my own has been eye-opening, and I finally understand why you set those boundaries. Thank you for forcing me to grow up. Do you think we could try being sisters again? Real ones this time?" I smiled as I read her words, feeling a warmth I hadn't expected. Things weren't perfect. They likely never would be, but progress was undeniable. My parents still sent occasional guilt-tripping texts, but without the leverage of my finances, they lacked their former power. They were starting to spend quality time with Sophia, encouraging her independence rather than enabling her dependence. As I wandered through the quiet halls of my home one evening, memories of the chaos that once filled these spaces lingered faintly. The marble countertops no longer bore evidence of wild parties. The hardwood floors gleamed, free of wine stains. And my credit card statements reflected only my own purchases. For the first time in years, peace reigned supreme. Of course, none of this would have been possible without Lauren's foresight, or the hidden clause in the deed. 6 months prior, when I first decided to buy the house, Lauren warned me about potential issues. "Your sister will try to take over," she predicted. "You need protection." Together, we crafted a foolproof plan, embedding specific safeguards into the legal framework of the property. When my family discovered those clauses, their faces went pale. The realization that I had anticipated their antics and prepared accordingly was devastating for them but empowering for me. Now, as I poured myself a glass of wine and settled onto the couch, I reflected on the journey that brought me here. Building fairness isn't easy, especially when faced with entitled family members who refuse to see your perspective. But standing up for yourself, even when it means alienating those closest to you, is often the only way to reclaim your dignity. And sometimes, the greatest reward isn't revenge. It's watching others finally step up and earn their place in the world.